Hello and welcome everyone. This is Tacozilla the Vanilla Gorilla. We are over halfway done with 2023 and I wanted to touch base and go over some of the best movies I have seen in this year. It's crazy to think that 6 months have gone by and I feel like these next 6 months might go by even quicker. And I wanted to let you know some of the movies I've been watching. A lot of these are first time watches. Only one is a movie that I have seen previous and it increased dramatically in rating and ranking. But without further ado, let's get on to the first movie, or I guess 10 out of 10, and that is Fanny and Alexander. Now, I must say, I watched the episodic version, which is nearly 4 hours long, I believe. 4 episodes, and one of Bergman's best. It's top 3 for me currently. I've seen close to 10 Bergman films. I believe I'm at 9 right now, and I love Autumn Sonata. I love Persona, but there is something very special about Fanny and Alexander. I've done a video about this with Matthew, aka Warchamp. I encourage you to check that out if you want a really in-depth analysis, but suffice to say, if you're an Ingmar Bergman fan, or you want to, I guess, test the waters to see how much you may like him, I strongly recommend this one because a lot of people say Bergman in long form is the best way to watch him. And on top of that, this film does a very tremendous job at showing off all the themes that Bergman covers very well and all of his strengths. That being said, as hearkening back to what I said at the very beginning, there are a couple films as of now that I think are better or that I enjoy more. But if you want to get the full Ingmar Bergman experience, this is a tremendous option. The next movie on the list, number 9, is Opening Night.
I mean, we all know you changed all the lines tonight. Doesn't that tell you something? I mean, don't you say to yourself, Myrtle, maybe I'm not so smart. Maybe Sarah's play has something to say.
2023 was the year that I started watching John Cassavetes films. I watched 5, almost right out of the gate for 2023 for an episode, again, that I did with Matt, in which we covered a couple of his films. I encourage you to check out that video on my channel. And this is the best of the 5 that I had seen. Gina Rawlings is one of the most talented actresses I have ever really seen on film. And this is arguably her best performance. Cassavetes is really good as well. Just some of the best performances. And for me, that can really make a movie for me. It's a really tremendous story as well, but Cassavetes is certainly one of the best directors for actors and actresses alike. I really enjoy his style, I enjoy his writing, and I really enjoy his directing, and the performances in his movies are some of the best ever, but Opening Night is chief among them, so I feel like if there was ever a sales pitch, if you enjoy great performances, Opening Night has one of the best I've ever seen, and it was a downright masterpiece. And something I should have said at the beginning, but I want to say now, all of these films I've rated 5 out of 5. These are the top 10, and they're all masterpieces as far as I'm concerned, and Opening Night is certainly a masterpiece as well. And a movie that I think there is very little argument as to its masterpiece status is The Godfather.
We've known each other many years. This is the first time you ever came to me for counsel, for help. You found paradise in America. Police protected you. You didn't need a friend. Now you come to me and you say, Don Corleone and give me justice. But you don't ask for respect. You don't offer friendship. You don't even think to call me Godfather.
Now, The Godfather is widely considered one of the best movies of all times. One of the best gangster movies of all times. Now, I watched it for the first time this year, and actually quite recently. It's an odyssey of old-time mafia, and it's pretty cutting edge for what it did. It's kind of the first of its kind to really be a great gangster film, to my knowledge, and it's considered one of the best for that very reason. It is not ranked as my best gangster movie of all time, and I think it does come down to personal preference at this point, because it is hard to argue the fact that this movie is or is not a masterpiece. I think, quite frankly, it's inarguable that it is. And Coppola, getting to see this from him, I think the first Coppola film I watched was Apocalypse Now, and it was quite obvious that he was a very talented director from that. And then, I got more and more exposure from some of his lesser-known films, which is still fairly well known, but just because of the aura that Apocalypse Now carries and The Godfather, they're just not that type of, they're not in that stratosphere. But, I watched Rumblefish, The Outsiders. I also watched The Conversation, which is obviously a great film. But getting to kind of see those before The Godfather, it just shows how complete a director he is. And, I think I got the wrong impression from him after watching Dracula, which is arguably a good horror film. It wasn't for me personally. I didn't rate it negatively, but I was nowhere near as high as a lot of people that I spoke to about it. Regardless, with this film, and I'm sure after I watch Godfather Part 2 and Apocalypse Now, and The Conversation, I think it's undoubtedly that he is a master of his craft. But this is about as an iconic a film as there is. There's really one other movie on this list that you could argue is more iconic, but I think you're splitting hairs if you're trying to put one above the other. I will say, greatly enjoyed this. I have, a couple other crime/gangster movies ahead of this on my all-time favorites list, but it is a tremendous film and a masterpiece to be sure. Hi everybody, this is Taco again. I hope you're enjoying the video. If you are, be sure to hit the like button while hitting the subscribe and bell icon as well. I have a ton of videos for you to check out, and I hope you do just that. With all that being said, enjoy the rest of the list. Now, the next film that we have on the list is Fight Club.
I want you to do me a favor.
Yeah, sure.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Why?
Never been in a fight. You?
No, but that's a good thing.
No, it is not. How much can you know about yourself if you've never been in a fight?
Okay.
Oh, you hit me in the ear.
Well, Jesus, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was perfect.
And I know we're not supposed to talk about Fight Club, but it is a tremendous film. And I have to say, misspoke at the beginning. This is another film that I actually watched previously to 2023, so it makes it two films. But I read the book last year and then watched the movie again this year. And, I think I had it at like a 4 or a 4.5, and then after watching it again recently, it's just executed so well. And quite frankly, I think David Fincher was the perfect director to adapt Chuck Palahniuk's infamous book, Fight Club, because Fincher plays with anything that's kind of mind-bending the way that Fight Club is really, really well. I just watched The Game last week, and it's kind of similar how psychologically the movie kind of plays with you, and how the characters actually are, kind of under the guise of something happening that may or may not be. And he mastered that style, and this is like the distilled version of how damn good he can be at telling that story. And, great performances by Edward Norton, who is an actor with whom I have a lot of respect, and Brad Pitt as well, someone who I think it's overlooked because of what he was early in his career, and also just because he was such a good-looking actor. I think, you discounted how talented he was, but he is one of the most talented actors, for sure, and did a tremendous job in this, playing, a very charismatic Tyler Durden. Really enjoyed this movie. Masterpiece. Glad I watched it again because I think I enjoyed it even more this time, and one of the best twists in movie history. Moving on, we have Oldboy. And, Film Junkie, someone with whom I collaborate with quite frequently, was huge on this movie. And that made me really want to watch this. The South Korean cinema movement is really impressive. They have really great movies coming out. And I think that was made apparent on the world stage when Parasite won Best Picture in, I believe, 2019. Oldboy, though, is a movie that probably helped really put it on the world stage previously to that, or, make it widely apparent that there was some really, really good movies coming out of South Korea. And I greatly enjoyed it. And it's a script that is really unique. It has action unlike a lot of films you'll ever see. And like even within the genre, it feels raw and gritty. And before it even gets to some of the darkest elements of the story itself, the ending is absolutely gut-wrenching. And it's one of the prime examples of like a masterpiece movie that has disturbing scenes, but it isn't, I would argue, because of the negative connotation that disturbing movies obviously get, doesn't get thought of as a disturbing movie to a lot of viewers who have seen it. But it is disturbing, and not in a like exploitative way, but in a way that it's like there are really powerful moments that those scenes just completely are gut-wrenching. It's unique cinema for sure. I would encourage it to anyone, and I know a lot of people aren't super duper willing to watch foreign films, but this is one I would go out of my way to watch, even if you're not a big fan of it, because it might be the tipping point to make you want to watch more foreign cinema. With that being said, up next on the list we have Harakiri.
いかがなさるおつもりかなとはこれのことでござるかなさよ
This is a film that is considered by Roger Ebert to be one of the best samurai movies of all time. And while I don't have it ranked that way on my list, I think there's a very good argument to be made because on the episode that Ethan and I discussed this, along with another Kobayashi movie, it is one of the most efficient scripts in cinema, period. It's just a perfect example of great storytelling. Tetsuya Nakade, the leading man, tremendous performance. One of the, it really blew me away. I was impressed with him from what I've seen in a couple of Akira Kurosawa movies. So, but this one like really made me realize that he is, he's great, and he's up with Toshiro Mifune as far as like one of the best Japanese actors of all time. Because up until before watching this movie, to me it was Mifune by far, without question. And then Nakade's performance in this film made a debate in my mind. But great lead performance and great storytelling. This is one of the premier scripts that's ever been put to screen, and should be checked out for that very reason. If you want to become a script writer, or you really like great scripts, this is one of the most efficient and effective scripts I've seen ever. Up next, we have Scarface.
This country, you gotta make the money first. Then when you get the money, you get the power. Then when you get the power, then you get the woman.
It's a 3-hour movie that feels like a 1.5 hour wild, just hurricane. Just completely blew me away. And Al Pacino, I talked about this with Matthew on our episode discussing Brian De Palma. His performance in this, because of all the talk and all the hype around Scarface, Al Pacino's performance almost doesn't get enough praise. It almost gets taken for granted that it's like, oh yeah, it's this great movie, and Pacino is like just wild and crazy in it, but it is a tremendous performance because it looks like him, and you it's him because he's, the marquee performer, but he genuinely throws himself into this film. It's a wild and crazy gangster movie, super colorful, super action-packed, violent, and just unapologetic about what it is, and it went for it. And when you swing the way that Brian De Palma swung on this film and you hit it full contact, you get a Scarface. It's one of those movies that, for me, I knew I would like it, but I was reticent to watch it. I wanted a reason to watch it, and I genuinely just didn't want to be let down by it. If you were like me, let this be the recommendation that finally pushes you to watch it, because I really think more often than not, I would be willing to bet you won't be disappointed by it, and it'll be maybe one of your favorite films, and definitely a film that you will love. So all the hype is real. I think that's the best thing I can say about this film, and it is genuinely great and a masterpiece. The next film that we're going to talk about is Heat.
Guy told me one time, don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner.
Stay down.
Another tremendous Al Pacino movie. Great performance by him. Great performance by Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, all of the side characters. I mean, this is a film that is just filled with tremendous performers who more than hold their weight, and have great performances themselves. I love the script. I love the themes of this movie. That was something coming into this that I didn't fully expect. I was watching this with my dad, and he kind of talked about how great a certain shootout was, and that made this film. And while that was a great scene, there's so much more to this movie from the performances and from the storytelling that Michael Mann does as well. And it's kind of, if you've seen Thief, you kind of realize that he gets into a side of the psychology of a type of person who would be like a criminal, much like the characters he portrays in Thief and Heat, and humanizes them, which is really tremendous. But he does an even better job of giving you the flip side of that into the mind of a like driven professional trying to stop these crimes. It's one of the best heist movies of all time. I don't think I have anything ranked above it on my all-time favorites list currently. It kind of set the blueprint as far as I'm concerned, and it's one of those. It's like when it's done perfectly, how do you top that? And I think it's why it might be the best heist movie of all time. Really highly recommended. It's great, action-packed, and adrenaline-filled. The next movie we're going to talk about is Chinatown.
The point is I'm not in business to be loved, but I am in business. And believe me, Mrs. Mulray, whoever set your husband up set me up. L.A.'s a small town. People talk.
Ethan, aka Film Junkie, as I mentioned, a collaborator, did a in-depth analysis, and it's a video that I can't recommend enough. And it's also the video that made me watch this film and made me fall in love with it. So if I can do that for anyone else, I hope I can here by saying if you haven't seen Chinatown, I promise you, not only does it hold up, but it's going to impress you in a multitude of ways. What Ethan said, I think I want to echo, in that this is one of the best examples of a screenplay in cinema history. And I know I said that about Harakiri, but I think these two scripts can go neck for neck. And I think why I give Chinatown the edge is because Jack Nicholson's performance, and also because I actually slightly enjoy the story that Chinatown tells more and the themes that go along with that. And the direction behind it, what Roman Polanski was able to do with this script, take a superbly written script and then have it acted out the way that they do, where, you know, you pace it really well through how the dialogue is gone through. It's absolutely tremendous. The themes in this, in the storytelling, the character arcs, and everything else, all the nooks and crannies. This is a close to flawless in so many ways. I cannot recommend it enough. It holds up supremely well, and it has one of the most dramatic finishes in cinematic history. I love this film, and I would recommend it to anyone who has not watched it yet. And I believe that leaves just the number one spot, and that goes to Pulp Fiction.
Night of the fight, we may feel a slight sting. Pride only hurts. In the fifth, your ass goes down.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
I do believe Marcellus, my husband, your boss, told you to take me out and do whatever I wanted.
Quentin Tarantino is a director that I love, but I know that there are a lot of people who feel differently about him. With all that being said, I don't think you can deny the greatness of Pulp Fiction. And this was the film that I think, when I was talking about Godfather, there's maybe one other film on this list that is close to or more iconic than it, and I think it's Pulp Fiction, something that Ethan, aka Film Junkie, said as well. It's an iconic film, and I think it almost gets overshadowed by the hype of it, which is a weird thing to say. I think people discount it because of how many people say it's great. But after you watch it, I think it's almost impossible to deny the greatness of this film. I mean, it has some of the best performances. It has a script that is able to just almost in a genius-like manner tie together these three subplots of the film. It's unique, it's violent, and it is just engaging as all hell. It's a movie that, admittedly, I was low on because, I added it to my Letterboxd profile as I was creating it because it was a movie I'd watched maybe 2 years previously, but felt the need to watch it again. And I'm glad I did because now I think I have it appropriately rated and ranked on my all-time favorite list because I think it is a masterpiece. I think it is pretty much flawless cinema. Everything about it is lovable, and I'm glad I got to watch it this year. I hope you liked the list. If you did, like it down below and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you on the flippity flip. Bye, y'all.
Catch you on the flippity flip. Catch you guys on the flippity flip. Flippity flip. Flippity flip. Really? Okay. See you guys.